learning series for literacy. Today's lesson is for all fourth graders out there, though all children are welcome to tune in. This lesson is the second in our series. My name is Valencia Smith, and I'm a fourth grade teacher at Venus Stewart Elementary in Gallatin, Tennessee. I'm so excited to be your teacher for this lesson. Welcome to my virtual classroom. Today, we'll be learning about two Native American cousins who end up in an unlikely situation. Before we get started, and to participate fully in our lesson today, you will need something to write with and a surface to write on, and 2 pieces of blank paper. Okay, let's begin. First of all, have you ever gotten to know someone that you didn't think you'd like at first, just to find out that they were much nicer than you originally thought? I know I have. Well, in today's story, you'll learn that sometimes the unexpected can be a pleasant surprise if you just let it. Our story today comes from the book of Native American stories and is called Adoet and Awan, the Bird Chasers. Just like the story in Lesson 1, it's also a work of historical fiction. Remember, historical fiction has 2 important features. The stories and characters are made up, but the times and places were real. The real place in this story is a region of North America called the Southeast. Most of the chapters in Native American stories are told from a child's point of view. Remember, point of view means who is telling the story. Today's story is from the point of view of a narrator who is telling about 2 young cousins. They have a chore to do together that I bet you'll never have to do. I surely haven't. This is a picture of Adoet and Awan. Let's find out where they are going. Adoet, it's time to go, whispered Awan. The sun is almost up. I'm coming, Adoet replied softly as she tiptoed through the doorway of her home. I have fish for us to eat for later, she continued. I have water for us to drink, Awan said as he smiled at Adoet. The children chatted with each other as they made their way towards their family's cornfield. The cornfield was a short distance from their village near the river. As they walked, the sound of crows cawing rose up in the warm spring air. The crows had returned to signal that the winter time was over. The warmth of the sun was once again encouraging life in the sleeping earth. The sun was a yellow haze on the horizon as the children walked together. Adoet and Awan had the important job of scaring the crows away from the corn seeds that had been planted in the fields. The crows had returned just in time to watch the men of the village plant the crops. The dirt, no longer frozen, was now warm enough for planting. Using a hoe fashioned from the jawbone of a deer and a small tree branch, the men created long, thin channels in the earth. They placed the corn seeds on one footprint apart in the bottom of each channel. They covered the seeds with dirt and watched as the rainfall and the sunshine did the rest. Each family group had its own cornfield. Corn was an important crop. It could be stored for the winter in grass-covered pits. Corn was used to make flour for fried cakes, breads, and puddings. The husks of the corn plant were used to make baskets and mats. In addition to corn, each family grew beans and squash. They also hunted and fished. Once the corn was planted, the women and children checked to make sure the young seedlings got plenty of water. If the spring rains did not come and water the earth, then the women and children did. The children had the job of protecting the young plants from all kinds of hungry critters. Adoet and Awan were sent to the family cornfield each day to guard the crop. As a corn crop had just been planted, crows were the worst enemy. They would either dig up the newly planted seeds with their sharp talons, or they would wait for the seeds to germinate. Then they would pull up each seedling plant, cawing with delight as they consumed the corn seed and discarded the rest. As the two children arrived in the cornfield, they could see that several crows were already there. The crows sat in the dirt, watching the young plants. Adoet and Awan placed their supplies on the ground and yelled at the crows. The crows stared at the children with their cold black eyes. Then they flapped their wings and flew away. One crow, however, could not quite lift its body off the ground and instead tried to scuttle away from the children. It made its way towards some low-lying shrubs. "Oh, it's injured," exclaimed Adoet. "We must help it." "Help it?" screeched Awan. "We're supposed to chase it away." "If it can't fly, it could be eaten up by any number of creatures," Adoet continued eagerly. "You are crazy," said Awan. Slowly, Adoet made her way towards the crow. The crow had stopped moving just in front of a shrub. It had turned to look at Adoet. "Are you injured?" Adoet asked the bird softly. "Here, let me help you." The crow inched its body under the shrub and stared intently at Adoet. Adoet sat down in the dirt and chatted with the crow for a while. Awan, unhappy with his cousin's behavior, stumped off to look for snakes. Eventually, Adoet reached in under the shrub and gently yet confidently picked up the bird. The crow flapped its wing for a second or two, but then settled down in Adoet's arms. When Awan returned, he found Adoet watching the field with the crow in her arms. "What are you going to do with it?" asked Awan, who was quite astonished by the sight of his cousin cuddling a crow. "I'm going to make it better," Adoet exclaimed. Awan simply shook his head. For the rest of the day, the two children guarded the corn crops. When the sun began to set, they made their way back to the village. Adoet walked proudly beside Awan, carrying the enemy in her arms. Wow, that was a really great story. I'm so excited to go back into the text and dig a little deeper. Think about what we learned about our main character in Lesson 1. Etu, he and his brothers were hunting a woolly mammoth because that's what their village used for lots of things, including the meat for food and the hides and bones to make their shelters. In this story, we learned that Adoet and Awan's people have to work hard to get their food as well. What kind of food were they growing? That's right. They were growing crops of corn from seeds. It sounds like that was a main source of food for these people. Like Etu's people, they depended on their natural surroundings to help them survive. On your piece of paper, I want you to write down how Etu's people got their food. Now, I want you to write down how Adoet and Awan's people got their food. When I compare them, I said that Etu's people hunted for food, while Adoet and Awan's people planted seeds to grow their food. Is that what you wrote down too? Good. Now, let's reread this line from the first part of our story. The warmth of the sun was once again encouraging life in the sleeping earth. What do you think the author wants you to think of when you read this line? When I close my eyes, I see the sun shining. It's very warm on the soft dirt. Underneath, little sleeping seeds are anxiously awaiting the perfect time to sprout. It's like the sun is saying, come on, you can come out now. Now I want to go back and read a section because I believe it really connects to the sentence we just talked about. The warmth of the sun was once again encouraging life in the sleeping earth. As I read, I'd like for you to jot down any words and phrases that you believe support this sentence. Listen carefully and I'll read it slowly. You ready? The sun was a yellow haze on the horizon as the two children walked together. Adouet and Awan had the important job of scaring the crows away from the corn seeds that had been planted in the fields. The crows had returned just in time to watch the men of the village plant their crops. The dirt, no longer frozen, was now warm enough for planting. Using a hoe fashioned from the jawbone of a deer and a small tree branch, the men created long, thin channels in the dirt. They placed the corn seeds 1 footprint apart in the bottom of each channel. They covered the seeds with dirt and watched as the rainfall and the sunshine did the rest. So what words and phrases did you come up with that supported the sentence? The warmth of the sun was once again encouraging life in the sleeping earth. I found quite a few examples myself and would like to share them with you now. First, the sun was a yellow haze on the horizon. Corn seeds planted in the field, plant their crops. The dirt, no longer frozen, was now warm enough for planting. And they covered the seeds with dirt and watched as the rainfall and the sunshine did the rest. Great job! I love to read stories where the author uses such beautiful words to paint the picture in my mind as I read. So, we know that Adouet and Awan and other children had an important job to do in the cornfields. What did they have to do? Right. They had to protect the fields from all kinds of hungry critters or pesky little animals. Now, I want you to jot down why you think it was so important to protect the cornfields. Good. That's right, because Adouet and Awan's people used corn for so many things in their daily lives, they couldn't risk the crops being destroyed. The text tells us that corn was an important crop. It could be stored for the winter in grass-covered pits. Corn was used to make flours for fried cakes, breads, and puddings. The husks of the corn plant were used to make baskets and mats. How amazing that all of the useful parts of corn was put to good use. That reminded me of how Etu's people used all parts of the woolly mammoth. They didn't let anything go to waste. We read that Adouet and Awan's job was to guard their family's cornfield each day. What did we find out was the worst enemy when the corn seeds were young or just starting to germinate or sprout? That's right, the crows. Do you remember what the crows would use to dig up the corn seeds or pull the seedling plants? Wow, you guys are really listening. Yes, they use their sharp talons or claws. Now, I want you to close your eyes. I'm waiting. Close those eyes. Can you see the crows swooping around the cornfields, just waiting for that perfect next bite? The story tells us that the crows were cawing with delight. What do you think that means? Yes, cawing is the sound that crows make, and this tells us that they are cawing happily. Can you hear them? I can imagine this was a very hard job for Adouet and Awan. Now, let's reread to remember what happened when Adouet and Awan got to the cornfield. As I read, I want you to pay close attention to how the author describes the crows. Go ahead and jot down a few notes. as the two children arrived in the cornfield, they could see that several crows were already there. The crows sat in the dirt, watching the young plants. Adouet and Awan placed their supplies on the ground and yelled at the crows. The crows stared at the children with their coal black eyes. Then they flapped their wings and flew away. One crow, however, could not quite lift its body off the ground and instead tried to scuttle away from the children. It made its way towards some low-lying shrubs. So we see that the crow were up to their usual business of trying to eat the corn seeds from the field. But one crow didn't fly away with the others. The author says that the crow tried to scuttle away. What do you think the word scuttle means? Good, you're right. Scuttle means to run quickly or to scamper. So what does the word make you think the crow looks like when it's trying to get away towards the bushes? This made me think that although the crow would like to fly off with the others, this is the only way it could get away from the children. It's like it could barely shuffle along the ground because its wings aren't working. Now, let's look closer at some of the words the author used to describe the crows. Did any of them stick out to you as I read? Yeah, that one stuck out for me too. Coal black eyes grabbed my attention. I want you to jot down why you think the author used coal black instead of just black. I like how the author made the word seem even more darker by linking it to the word coal, because it makes me think of the eyes that are so dark, like the eyes of a crow. So what did Adouet discover about the crow under the shrubs? Yes, it was injured, wasn't it? And Adouet wanted to help it. What did she think might happen to it if she didn't help it? That's right. I also think it would be hard to walk away from an animal that needed help. She knew it might get eaten by other animals before it healed. Now, why do you think it surprised Awan so much that Adouet wanted to help the injured crow? Let me reread this sentence. He said, "Help it," screeched Awan. "We're supposed to chase it away." I bet he couldn't believe that Adouet was trying to help a creature that they would work so hard to keep away. Crows are supposed to be the enemies. Why would she help the enemy? Now we're going to move on to our guided practice. The story ends with the two cousins, Adouet and Awan, walking back to the village with the crow cradled in Adouet's arms. Why do you think by this time Awan was okay with her choice to bring the crow back with them? I'd like to share my answer with you. I think Awan saw the injured crow was no nuisance to them now, and he realized that it was important to help it get better. Really, the crow needed food too, just like them. I also think he began to see the crow through his cousin's eyes and possibly felt more compassionate than before. It's interesting, isn't it, how other people can help you see the world a little differently. Now remember, when we read our story from lesson 1, was written in first person point of view, which meant that E2 was telling the story. Today's story was told by a narrator, not Adouet or Awan. How do you think the story would have been different if it was told from Awan's point of view? I want you to make a bulleted list of what Awan would have experienced from his point of view. Make sure to use the pronoun I for Awan and she for Adouet, and also it for the crow. I'll give you a few seconds to jot down some notes. Okay, I'm going to share with you my bulleted list. It says, Adouette and I went to the cornfield to do our job, scare the crows away from our newly sprouting corn. I noticed that Adouette was crouched down talking to a crow that was hiding under a bush. What was she doing? I'm going to find some snakes that can help scare the crows away. Wow, I just got back and Adouette decided that she wants to help the injured crow. I can't believe it. Crows are supposed to be the enemy. The sun is getting low in the sky, which means it's time for us to walk back to the village. Adouette is carrying the injured crow in her arms, and I'm surprised that it's being so calm. Maybe it's not as bad as I thought. Actually, it's kind of cute. Now, let's move on to the next section. In this story, the author used such wonderful sensory language to describe the crows. From their role making trouble in the cornfields to the lone injured crow that Adouette so lovingly takes into her care. I'd like for you to imagine that you are that crow. Tell me how you were with the other crows, just trying to steal some corn seeds from the field when you suddenly hurt your wing. What did you think of when you couldn't fly? How much did the children scare you as they came closer? What do you think when Adouette picked you up and carried you away? How do you feel about her? How do you feel about Awan? What happens next? You take the story from here. I can't wait for you to write about what happened once you got to the village with Adouette and Awan. Now, as always, remember to go back and look over your notes from our lesson. You can use some of the same words and phrases to help you be more descriptive in your writing. I also want you to be sure to organize your event sequence, use dialogue and descriptions, use a variety of transitional words and phrases, provide a conclusion, and use precise words and phrases, and use sensory details. Well, our time has come to an end. Boys and girls, I really enjoyed sharing this story with you today. Thank you for inviting me into your home. I look forward to seeing you in our next lesson in Tennessee's at-home learning series. Bye, Elijah. Bye, Shane, JP, Raven, and Faye. See you later.
Hello, I'm Maria Lee, First Lady of Tennessee, and I'm so glad you're here. This has been an unprecedented time for our state and our country. I'm so proud to see how Tennesseans are coming together to serve and lift each other up in the midst of challenges. Each of us has a role to play, including you, our students. Right now, your school buildings may be closed, but there are many opportunities to keep learning. And we are so grateful for the partnership of PBS in bringing this program directly to you as one more way to keep us learning and growing together during this time. I want to also give a special thank you to all of the teachers who helped make this possible. We could not do it without them. Most of all, thank you for joining us.
You want to hear a construction joke?
Yeah, I love jokes.
Sorry, I'm working on it.
Man. Okay, everyone, for family time today, I have the cards that I had everyone make and write 5 things that they love about the family. And so we're going to take turns and we're going to try to guess who said and wrote what on what card. Okay? Ooh, okay. I'll start. Here we go. We always have a lot of fun eating lunch together on Sundays.
Elise?
You!
Yeah.
Okay, so you wrote this one? Okay.
Yeah.
Who guessed it? Who guessed
Me.
Okay, so Amy, you get to go.
Oh, let's do. We sometimes have fun waiting moves together. What? Oh, watching movies together.
Watching movies. Who wrote that? I think
Oh, you
Elise
take
wrote
us to
it.
Elise.
Yeah. So who guessed that right? Did we both guess it right?
both did.
Okay, so we each get 2 points. Okay, we'll let Daddy go.
All
Okay.
right. Stir it up here. I love my family, especially when we bake together and then eat what we made.
You.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
me. What, you don't bake with Daddy?
At lunch.
All right, here we go.
The value parents place on reading makes a big difference in a child's reading and language development. You don't have to be a teacher or a great reader to create and nurture a love of reading in your child. It's beyond words on a page. It's about using stories to engage your child in the world around them. Start early because language development begins at birth. Exposing children to books early enriches their daily lives and builds strong thinkers. Just having books in the home, no matter your comfort level in reading aloud, can help a child grow to love reading and learning. Let your baby touch, feel, and even chew on the books.
Bah, said Gregory unhappily. Let me see your unhappy face.
Ask your child questions about the book and experiences the characters are having. Use the pictures to spark meaningful, engaging conversation, relating pictures to things in the child's day-to-day routine. Share the joy of books by bringing the story to life. Read with enthusiasm and energy in any language. Try using different voices for different characters.
Is that we're all here together?
Make up a funny story using the pictures, or act out characters and sounds animals make.
Hey.
Encourage your child to copy you and make his or her own noises.
That's good. That's good.
And most of all, reading with children and exposing them to books from the moment they're born instills an everlasting love of reading and learning that they'll have for the rest of their lives.